What's going on, Blue Jays fans? Craig Borden here bringing you the latest on everything Toronto Blue Jays. And let me tell you, this offseason just keeps getting weirder and more interesting by the day. We just locked up Dylan Cease to what might be one of the best contracts in baseball. The rotation is looking absolutely stacked. And now we've got Max Scherzer doing the media rounds, talking about the team like he's already packed his bags and ready to come back to Toronto. So let's break down what's happening with Scherzer, why this rotation might legitimately be the best in baseball, and what the Blue Jays should be targeting next, because this offseason is far from over. Max Scherzer has been making the rounds on talk shows lately, and the way he's been talking is raising some serious eyebrows. He keeps referring to the Blue Jays as we. He's talking about how the baseball gods got it right and dropping all these hints that make it sound like he's already mentally committed to coming back. Now, the big question is whether the Blue Jays actually want him back, and if so, what would it cost? Because let's be real here. After last season, there's no way Scherzer is getting anywhere close to the $15.5 million he made last year. That number was based on expectations that he'd eat innings and be a reliable mid-rotation arm, and that's just not what happened. He barely pitched during the regular season because of injuries, and while he was absolutely phenomenal in the playoffs when it mattered most, you can't pay a guy that kind of money for postseason heroics alone. So what's fair value for Max Scherzer at this point in his career? According to Spot Rack projections, he's looking at around $9 million for next season. That feels about right to me. He's going to be 42 years old. He hasn't thrown significant innings in years, but when he's healthy and on the mound, he's still got elite stuff. He can still be a high-leverage guy. He's a mentoring presence for the younger pitchers in that rotation. At $9 million, you're not asking him to be your ace or even your number 3 starter. You're bringing him in as depth, as insurance, as someone who can compete for that 5th rotation spot with guys like Yariel Rodriguez and Bowden Francis. That's a role where Scherzer could absolutely thrive, and it wouldn't break the bank. The other benefit of bringing Scherzer back is flexibility. If he comes in and pitches well, great. You've got an extra quality arm in the rotation. If one of the younger guys takes a step forward and Scherzer becomes expendable, you've got a veteran arm you can potentially move at the trade deadline to a contender looking for playoff experience. Either way, it's a low-risk move that gives the Blue Jays more options. And in a year where they're trying to compete for a championship, having options is crucial. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, and that's the Dylan Cease contract. Major League Baseball is absolutely losing its mind over the fact that the Blue Jays landed him, and rightfully so, because this rotation just became one of the most dangerous in the entire league practically overnight. You've got Kevin Gausman, who's been a horse for this team. You've got Jose Berrios, who, when he's on, is one of the better pitchers in the American League. You've got Shane Bieber coming back from injury with unfinished business after the way last season ended. You've got Trey Isaf, who's been lights out every time he's been given a challenge. And now you add Dylan Cease to that mix. That's 5 legitimate starters who could slot into the top 3 of most rotations around the league. Even MLB Network is acknowledging this. Analysts are saying the Blue Jays might have the best rotation in baseball, and I don't think that's hyperbole. When you look at the depth behind those 5 guys, it gets even more ridiculous. You've got Yariel Rodriguez, you've got Bowden Francis when he's healthy, you've potentially got Max Scherzer coming back, you've got young arms like Jonathan King and Ricky Tiedemann working their way back from injury. The depth is insane, and it gives the Blue Jays the kind of pitching infrastructure that wins championships. This is exactly what the front office wanted. They tried to get Dylan Cease at the trade deadline last year and ended up pivoting to Shane Bieber, which worked out beautifully. Now they get both of them. That's the kind of aggressive roster building that puts you in a position to compete for a World Series, and Blue Jays fans should be fired up about this. So where do the Blue Jays go from here? The pitching is set. The rotation is elite. The bullpen has some solid pieces. The next priority has to be the offense. They need to get Bo Bichette locked up long term. They need to figure out what they're doing with the outfield, and they need to add another impact bat to lengthen this lineup and give them the kind of run production they'll need to compete in the American League. If I'm the Blue Jays front office, I'm looking at the Japanese market right now. Tatsuya Emi and Kazuma Okamoto are both being posted, and both of them could make an immediate impact. The posting system creates a narrow window for teams to negotiate, so I wouldn't be surprised if one of them signs in the next couple of weeks. What makes this even more interesting is that teams you wouldn't normally expect are getting involved. The Marlins and Mets are reportedly in on Okamoto, which is wild because neither of those teams is known for spending big money on international players. But that tells you how highly regarded these guys are. If the Blue Jays can land one of them, it would be a massive addition to the lineup. The other name that keeps coming up is Kyle Tucker. The Blue Jays have reportedly been in on him for a while, and he would be the perfect piece to anchor this lineup. Tucker gives you power, he gives you on-base ability, and he plays solid defense in the outfield. If the Blue Jays can swing a deal for Tucker or lock up Bo Bichette long-term, this roster goes from really good to legitimately scary. One interesting development from around the league is that the Yankees are apparently penny pinching right now. Hal Steinbrenner has been doing interviews saying the team doesn't have the money to spend on certain players, which is absolutely insane when you think about it. The Yankees are one of the most recognizable sports brands in the world, right up there with the Dodgers and Manchester United. They print money, but they're claiming they can't afford to compete in free agency. That opens the door for teams like the Blue Jays to swoop in and grab players the Yankees might have otherwise targeted. The Blue Jays are in a really interesting position right now. They've addressed the pitching. They've got one of the best rotations in baseball. The offense has pieces, but it needs one or two more big bats to really take this team to the next level. If they can lock up Bo Bichette, add Kyle Tucker or one of the Japanese stars, and bring back Max Scherzer for depth, this team is going to be a legitimate World Series contender. The American League should be on notice because the Blue Jays are building something special here. Before I let you go, quick reminder that the Jays Birdwatching podcast is hitting episode 500 this Thursday, December 4th. Travis Snyder is bringing a friend, and we're going to have a great time talking all things Blue Jays and celebrating this milestone. Make sure you tune in because it's going to be a fun one. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you're subscribed, and as always, go Blue Jays.